work out how to use the slides. So, so my name's Andy Roberts. I work for Bruntwood SciTech. Bruntwood SciTech are a property company, as you've probably gathered. You're all sat in a Bruntwood SciTech building here in Circle Square. We like to build really nice buildings, as you can see. But in addition to building really nice buildings, we like to help build really good companies as well that sit within those buildings. Because basically companies that make lots of money are able to pay their rent. It's quite a simple business model. The picture you can see there is actually Alderley Park. So my role within Bruntwood SciTech is innovation manager within life sciences. With health tech, and it sort of sits on the borderline of life sciences. Obviously, there's a lot of tech involved. So I do get involved with health tech companies, as well as pharmaceutical companies, as well as biotechs and that sort of thing, medical device companies. My role is really to try and help connect people, but also to help sort of companies to assess themselves. And I run a variety of programs and work with a variety of companies in different ways, including running accelerator programs. We've just come to the end of one yesterday. 5 really innovative med and biotech companies have just come through our program. There's a couple of those I think you'll be seeing probably up on the stage here in the next year or two, to be honest. And it's a really nice role to be in. Alderley Park is the ex-AstraZeneca site, which is where I spent the first 12 years of my career as a pharmaceutical scientist, mainly working in oncology as a medicinal chemist. I had basically a brain aberration about 12 years ago. I decided to leave that very comfortable world and become an entrepreneur. So I went back to business school. I learned how to do business as I thought I needed to become an entrepreneur, and did an MBA here at the business school. What I quickly realised was actually the MBA taught me how to run AstraZeneca, not how to run a startup. So that was 2 years and quite a lot of money really well spent, I realised, within about 6 months of working within my first medtech startup. So I spent the next sort of 10 years then working with a variety of spin-outs and startups, lots of them from the University of Manchester and the Trust, and so good and bad. We had some success. We managed to raise quite a lot of money. We managed to take a lot of these things to prototypes and beyond. But I started working for Bruntwood SciTech because they asked me to go and run some accelerators for them back in 2018. And I thought, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I had a business partner at the time. We were working with somebody in the room, Alistair. We were working on on helping some medical device companies as a sort of collaborative, and got offered the chance to go and work at Alderley Park running the accelerator. I thought, yeah, we'll do that for 6 months. And that was 4 years ago. So as you can tell, I do quite enjoy it, because in the last 4 years, I've worked with about 200 and odd companies at various stages of development. We have 250 companies on site. I don't work with all of them, but we've worked with a variety of companies and helped a lot of them to go on to create successful businesses. What I'm going to ask for today is really a bit of a plea. We've talked about culture change, and I think the culture change needs to come not only within the NHS, but also from academic sides and also industrial sides as well. And really, I'm going to talk today about reducing risk in innovative businesses. And I'm only really going to talk about one thing in this, which you'll find out about in just a moment. A little bit more about Bruntwood SciTech. We've got 11 major campuses. You sat in, well, on the edge of one of them now. You've got Manchester, obviously, which is Manchester Science Park, City Labs, Bright Building, that sort of area. We own Legging, Liverpool Science Park. We're building BKIT, Birmingham Health Innovation Campus down in Birmingham, along with the City Council, the hospitals and the university down there. We own Melbourne Science Park in Cambridge, and then we own Alderley Park in Cheshire. Over in Leeds, we've got Platform, and then up in Glasgow, we've just acquired the Met Tower. So we are a true national organisation. And when I started just working at Alderley Park. In the last 6 months, my role has now changed, and I now cover the whole portfolio. But due to it being life sciences, it's mainly Manchester and Alderley Park that I cover. So we have got other innovation managers around the patch. I don't cover all 600 companies, thankfully. One of the things about working for Bruntwood is that your slides get very out of date very, very quickly. And the number of customers and the size of the property portfolio is now quite considerably bigger. And these are only a few months old, these particular slides. Bruntwood is quite a unique property company. We don't just build things and then rent them out. We try and understand our customers. That's part of my role, and we try and help our customers. So we have a variety of, public, private, and academic partnerships. Some of you will see your own organisations on there. Those partnerships come in different depths. but it enables us to really link people together in a meaningful way. And it's in everybody's interest that we all do well. We're not in competition with anybody on this list whatsoever. Okay, so when we run accelerators, some of the organizations on here run accelerators, it's great. There's more knowledge being gained by the whole community. And what we want to do is build a really, really strong innovation ecosystem across the UK. I'm not going to go through all of the names on there, but you can obviously see some of the key ones at each level. And this list is ever growing. We've got a number of managers across the business who are helping to grow these sorts of partnerships. So basically, when an early stage innovator comes to us and they say, "Oh, we've got this wonderful product," we say the first question we tend to ask is, "Who are you going to sell it to?" Yeah, what does your market look like? What's your business going to look like in 1, 2, 3 years? Because it's really important. We've got everything from a single desk that you can rent on a monthly rolling basis up to 100,000 square feet labs, which obviously cost quite a lot of money. So we want to try and understand where customers are going and how we can best serve them. So we can introduce the customers to, or prospective customers to people on this list. And we've got Anastasia at the back, who many of you will know. Anastasia's really excellent at also linking people in. So it's what we try and do as a business and ensure that we're not just getting people in, checking their accounts and just checking that they've got the money to pay the rent. We want to know more than that. We want to be involved with the company and help them to thrive. Translating technology. So my background is early stage translation. I am an absolute master of failure. Okay, I worked for 12 years in the pharmaceutical industry, never managed to make a successful drug, have a few candidate drugs, so we had a few parties for that sort of thing, but nothing I ever created in the lab ever made it into the market, unfortunately. But there's thousands of people like me in the pharmaceutical industry, so it's something we get used to. But I am used to failing at a really early stage, and it makes failure really comfortable for me, which is quite an unusual thing for a scientist to say. And it translates into entrepreneurship quite well, because with entrepreneurship, you need to fail fast. Okay, there's VCs in the room who will understand that many of the companies that they pay money to or give money to are going to fail, and it's part of their portfolio. The difference is, for the entrepreneur, they only have an N of one, they only have one company, and it's really, really important that they make it work. It's not quite as important for the VC because they're investing in hundreds and hundreds of companies. But it's all about giving people what they want and what they need. Why have I put that in inverted commas at the top? Well, most of the translation that we see comes out of university labs and hospital clinics, and it's ideas that people have had based on their own experiences. So it's about what they want and what they want to work on. And I think what my plea really is here is to try and for people to try and understand at a much earlier stage of why do new innovations and startups fail, and what can we do to avoid failure. And I'll sort of finish with my plea later on in the slides. So this is from CB Insights. They run post-mortems of startup companies every year. And every single year, the top 2 or 3, they sort of bandy around, but they're kind of within error bars anyway. Running out of cash, no market need, getting out-competed, flawed business models, regulatory and legal challenges, things like this. These are always the top reasons. And if everybody sits here and is completely honest with themselves, they're all completely avoidable. We've got regulatory experts in here. We've got business experts in here. We've got people that understand the competition. We've got people who can plug you in. We've got AHSMs who can help you to understand the market. And we've got financiers in it. So how on earth are 70 to 80% of companies, depending on which metric you use, actually going on to fail? Okay, so if we start with the first one, it's really tied to the inability to secure financing or investor interest. And that comes down to basically business model and value proposition failure, because you've not got enough there to entice other investors or the same investors to follow on with their funding. And bearing in mind, we can be talking anything from sort of £10,000 to £10 million here. So there's a huge range there. This is very, very closely linked to this one, okay? And this is taken straight from the CB Insights page, tackling problems that are interesting to solve. Okay, could I just have a show of hands if you're a sort of technical expert, engineer, scientist? Just a quick show of hands. Yeah, so we've got a fairly split, 50-50-ish. Hands up if you professional services or business, finance. Okay, so there's more of you guys. So you guys are actually really good for innovators to speak to, because you guys will ask the right questions on a business from a business perspective, whereas other innovators just want to look at the technology. We want to know how it works. How does your little widget work? How does your technology work? What's the interesting bits in it? And what happens in academia and clinical labs is people do it in closed circles, and they do it in closed rooms, and they discuss it with their close colleagues. And they ask people silly questions like, do you like this? We're all very polite, aren't we? What do you think the answer is when most people say, do you like this? Well, I've just spent 6 months working on this idea. Do you like it? Yeah, I like it. Would you buy it if I made it? Yeah, I'll buy it. Yeah, it's that sort of thing. Will you buy it? Can you buy it now? Is a very, very different question. Okay. So what do? We get people to treat their business as an experiment, okay? And lots of scientists come to us, lots and lots of clinicians come to us. And these ideas begin their life in a lab or the workshop or the clinic. And technology-led businesses often do fail to translate quickly because of that sort of inherent love for the technology that us technologists have. Lack of market traction, as we've already seen, is usually the underlying cause. So how can you bring these two things together? Well, what we get people to do is we get people to run basic experiments, okay? And this isn't necessarily a very complex task. It can be as simple as going out and speaking to a load of potential customers. And the first question is, are these people actually customers? And we've already heard from the panel about the different layers within the NHS. And for anybody that knows the NHS, the average time to adoption of a new technology in our illustrious NHS after CE mark is 17 years. Okay, the average patent lifespan is about 20 years. So you don't get an awful lot of time to make money out of the NHS. If you run these experiments early and you get that market traction early and you partner with people early and you get the evidence, the real robust evidence that these things could work in the market, then you're far more likely to get a successful business. And what I would like to, the plea I would like to make is when somebody comes up to you, particularly if you're in professional services, is not say, what's your technology, but say, who's your customer and what's their need? And how many of them have you spoken to? How well do you understand them? And let's change the culture so that people are thinking more in terms of what customers want. So there's two real stages to it. There's the business design stage, and then there's the test stage. And this is what we get people to do on our program. And the first thing we do is get people to walk away from their technology. So forget your technology. Let's design a business here. Let's think about the business, okay? And what we use, we build on the initial assumptions. So we capture and structure the thinking on the business model canvas. If you've not seen that, I'll show you that in a moment. And then the design and develop the value proposition that goes into that business model using the value proposition canvas. And then test those ideas, extract hypotheses and go out and test them. Okay, and then pivot based on evidence developed. Okay, we had 5 companies that went through our accelerator program just now. The winner was the person that did probably the biggest pivot within the whole group. So pivoting, changing your ideas based on evidence is not a bad thing, and so many people think it is because they get locked into and wedded to their original idea. This is the business model canvas. I'm not going to go through it in too much detail. Right in the middle, we've got the value proposition. That is not the technology. That is the value proposition that sits around the technology and how it's delivered. We've got the routes to market and the way we deal with the customers. We've got who the customers are over there. We've got the exciting bit here. This is the bit everybody gets really big numbers into, the revenue streams, and then the cost structure over here. This is the stuff you've got to spend. Nearly everybody ignores the cost of development in that. They'll say, oh, well, I need marketing, I need packaging, I need this, that, and the other. They forget that it costs 10 million quid to create the medical device that goes in the box, which all counts. And if you're a financier, you're going to want that 10 million quid back at some point. And over here is the stuff that we do. So we've got key partners that we need to work with, and that don't underestimate the management challenges they bring. Got key activities, the stuff that the company does, and key resources, the stuff the company needs. When it comes to testing it, we need to extract hypotheses from that. And there's 4 real hypotheses, okay? Outside the business model canvas is everything in the outside world. The business model covers everything that the company has control of, basically, to some degree or another. We've got over here, we've got the feasible bit. Can we build it? Okay, and this is the bit everybody starts with, because this is, if you're a geek like me, this is the exciting bit. This is the bit where you get your soldering iron out, or your chemistry set, or your incubators, and you start actually making things and testing them. The bit that kills companies is this bit. Nobody wants it. We've got hard evidence to prove that. So what we do on the accelerator programs, and all good accelerator programs do, is they get people to step away from the feasibility part, step into the desirability part, and go out and speak to people. So that's the bit as investors, stakeholders, friends, we should be asking about. We shouldn't be really asking. The technology is all exciting. We should be asking them who's going to buy it, because that's what's going to make them millionaires, and then got to get them even better Christmas presents out of them. The bottom bit, the viability bit, is directly linked to the top two parts. Okay, as you can see, the cost structure sits under the can we build it. The revenue stream sits underneath the desirability part. You don't need me to stand up here now to say revenue streams need to be bigger than costs in order to have a viable business, okay? But of course, in medical technologies, it takes a hell of a long time to get there. So lots and lots of people think they've got a really good business because they've raised venture capital. But they've only got a really good business when these revenue streams are actually outweighing the costs on a sustainable basis and on a growing basis. And that's what we all want to see. That's what we want filling our buildings. That's what we want filling these halls. But that's not to say that startups don't have any value or any meaning. It's about learning from them really, really quickly and moving on and pivoting and finding those real key sweet spots in the market. And remember that markets are made of people. Okay, we can talk about markets all we like, and the NHS being a market. The NHS is 1 million people. Okay, so what's a representative sample of 1 million people? They're all different. If anybody that comes to me and says, I'm going to sell to the NHS, I'll tell them to sit down and have a think about who they're actually going to sell to, because you can't sell to the NHS. You don't ring 111 and say, do you want to buy my medical device, do you? So you can't sell to the NHS. You can sell to people within the NHS. That's the important thing. It's about those people. Okay, this is the value proposition canvas. This sits behind it. This is probably the most useful piece of paper I've ever found. Okay, over here we've got the value proposition. We've got the products and services. We've got gain creators and we've got pain relievers. Okay, this is the bit that the innovators design. Okay, all of these things are available on the internet. If anybody wants links, there's tons of YouTube videos that describe this stuff much better than I do. This is the stuff that people design, and everybody comes with a really, really nice value proposition. And I'll say, right, well, go away now and think about your customer segments and who are they? And they'll say the NHS. I say, no. 1 million people in an organization is an organization. It's not a customer segment. Who are you targeting? Oncologists. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. What sort of oncologists? Surgical oncologists. Okay, what level of career are they at? And these are the sorts of questions that we ask because where we start is customer jobs. And customer jobs are not, that does not mean oncologist. It means the things that an oncologist does in their daily life in order to get through their life, in order to make their lives better. And they come in three main sorts. You've got the functional jobs, so basically curing cancer. You've got social jobs, which is looking good to other people. So that might be standing up here and presenting. It might be publishing things. And then you've got the more emotional jobs, which are how it makes the person feel. And we all have these jobs, and these influence our buying decisions on a daily basis. And when you think about those jobs, the emotional jobs can be the ones that really, really attract the high premiums. Because if anybody sat in here wearing designer clothes is probably fallen for some emotional and social jobs because they want to look good and they want to feel good about what they wear. Okay, the functional job is keeping warm and keeping your body covered up. Basically, that's not why we buy clothes. It's not why we buy cars. We buy them based on those other things. But guess what? The same is also true of medical devices, of med tech, health tech, because people have other jobs in their lives other than just curing that disease. Okay, they want to look good. They want to feel good. Okay, they want life to be easy for them. They want life to be comfortable. Okay, so think about how your technology, or think about how your clients' technologies might help them do that. And you can actually really, help them to improve their value proposition. And they feed directly into the gains and the pains that the customers feel. Gains are things that they're looking for in their daily lives, and pains are things that obviously harm them and they want to avoid. Okay, scientists in the room will know this. The number of good hypotheses I see around businesses from real scientists is very, very low. Okay, it is a real challenge to get people to think about business scientifically, but it's what we try and do. Okay, so keeping business experiments really simple is absolutely key. The most important thing for me is avoid mentioning the solution, because as soon as you mention that to your prospective customer, you've skewed their thinking, you've biased the results you're going to get. Ask them about the jobs that they're trying to get done. Ask them about what damages them in that environment. Ask them about the gains they're looking for. So learn to talk about technology without selling it. Get the numbers up. So people will say, oh, I spoke to Professor such a body, and he's the world's leading expert in such and such a part of the oncology patient pathway. It's still an N of 1. The guy probably hasn't even got any buying power. He may be very, very clever, and he may have some good ideas, but it's still only an N of 1. So get the numbers up, try and understand it. And that's why I say, how many people have you spoken to about this idea?
That's the first question we should be asking young and early stage innovators. Try and make the data strong enough to publish, because obviously you are going to be publishing it. You're going out to the real world with a business here. You're going to put yourself on the world stage. And don't be disheartened by failure. I don't get disheartened by failure. I've failed throughout my career, everything from chemical reactions to actual businesses. Analyze what you failed on and then pivot based on that. And that's really the sort of key take home for people. If we look at the top reasons, they fall into two main sorts. We've got business model related ones, value proposition related ones. This is not a quick process. Okay, the previous panel said it takes time. There's innovators in here that came through the Alderley Park Accelerator many moons ago who are now getting into the sort of hockey stick curve years later. And when they stood up on their final pitch, I bet none of them said it would be 5 or 6 years before they saw that real increase in revenues. Okay, so it's all about reality, but the things come true time and time again, building things that nobody wants. People do want them, it's just getting out there and finding them. Okay, some recommended reading. If you've got sort of people in your network that are looking for business for Christmas presents, I can highly recommend these books: Testing Business Ideas, Value Proposition Design, and Business Model Generation. It's all founded on lean startup, the idea of creating the value before you spend lots and lots of money. And it's all founded on this guy's work. And his famous saying is, there are no facts in the building, so get the hell out and talk to customers. And that is the slide that I end every single one of my accelerators workshops on, because it's the most true thing that you can say. So please do think about those customers and think outside the box, and get your customers, your friends, your clients to think outside those box. I think I've probably overrun, so apologies for that. My details there, if anybody wants to contact me. We have various events at Alderley Park and across Bruntwood SciTech. Catch me at lunchtime. I'll be on a panel later. Happy to speak to anybody.